Hermine Wong. She is a lecturer at UC Berkeley, joining us now to talk more about this story that is making headlines around the world. Hermine, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks so much for having me, Trinity. It's great to be on the show.
So let's start by talking about what exactly are the primary legal arguments that are being presented by both sides in the TikTok ban challenge.
Yeah, great. So we've got kind of a prisoner's dilemma going on here for the Supreme Court that's been teed up. On the one hand, there is the government that's saying that there's a national security interest with TikTok and the fact that China owns TikTok. And then on the other side is a First Amendment issue that TikTok is claiming, hey, this infringes on our right of First Amendment speech, and it infringes on the right of all of our users and their First Amendment speech. And these are two competing interests that don't have an easy way of resolving themselves typically.
Now, Hermine, I do want to talk about the timeline here because it's all very fast. An emergency appeal was granted by the Supreme Court, and they're going to hear arguments on January 10th. And then this is also supposed to take place again on January 19th. So talk to me about the significance behind this timeline and what we should expect.
Yeah, so this is, as you say, a very compressed timeline. We don't typically see this out of the Supreme Court. And so this gives you a sense of how critical the court thinks that this particular issue is. So they're taking it up. It was just handed down by the DC Circuit. The appeals court heard it, and they just gave a decision on December 6th. So now the Supreme Court is taking it up, and over the holidays, they're expecting the government and TikTok to be giving them full-fledged briefings on this, and an oral argument that they've extended to 2 hours long on January 10th, because the act itself is supposed to take place on January 19th, as you said. So TikTok is saying, hey, we're going to suffer irreparable harm if you don't do something about this, Supreme Court.
And you know, when President Trump was in office last time, he actually issued an executive order trying to ban TikTok. But now, does it seem like he's doing a completely 180? And why do you think that is? What do you think is the driving factor behind his thought process?
Yes, President-elect Trump is definitely doing both a 180 and not doing a 180. And he's doing a 180 on the merits. Part of that was because earlier his own executive order back in 2020 was ruled unconstitutional by the courts. This is why this new act has come in place. It's meant to be more narrowly tailored to address the constitutional issue that the First Amendment brings up. But then why is he also doing this 180 on kind of the practical grounds? One, TikTok has a huge following for President Trump now, and he believes that he's got a huge youth vote after this election, and TikTok is incredibly popular there. He also probably believes that once this gets implemented, and this is really important to remember, the act we talk about as a TikTok ban, you'll hear a lot of members of Congress talking about it not as a ban, but trying to get TikTok to be divested from Chinese ownership and bought by some other ownership, preferably a U.S. ownership. And so you could see that President-elect Trump is thinking maybe that he's got some wiggle room there when it comes to the implementation, finding another buyer, finding a way to do some extensions through his own presidential powers.
A lot of key takeaways there, Hermine. I'm sure this is a story we are going to keep on following. It was great to have you on the show this morning.
Thank you so much, Trinity.